взял факел исключительно против ростов. Лям 400 какой-нибудь стоит. Раньше по 4 миллиона продавались. Сейчас лям 400. Да, чтобы людишки растапливались. Все верно. О, реально не закинул. Да. You have food buff. It's gone. Thank you. Thank you. What is the best, bro? В чем причина может быть? Может быть, время еще не дошло до конца, чтобы забрать сюда.
It's well known China won't stand for any criticism. There, opponents of the communist regime are simply not tolerated. But it seems Beijing now thinks it also has the right to ignore international borders and silence dissent anywhere it sees fit. Around the world, it's setting up illegal outposts called Chinese Overseas Police Service Stations. And as the name suggests, their objectives are clear. Our law enforcement agencies deny there are any of the stations here, even though Chinese authorities publicise their existence. But either way, that's not the end of the intimidation. Australians are also being targeted in other bizarre ways for daring to speak out about China.
How's that? That better? Okay.
The worst thing Andrew Phelan has ever done is accumulate a few minor speeding tickets. Taking care of his frail and elderly mum keeps him well and truly on the straight and narrow.
I was sitting in my chair and the blind was down and I saw footsteps coming.
So when on Australia Day this year he was suddenly arrested at his Melbourne home, he was in deep shock. Did you think it was a joke? Did you feel like it was very serious?
4 armed police in plain clothes with an arrest warrant reading out what were very serious criminal offences. So it was certainly no joke. And I'll confess, I was rattled.
China's been very good at exposing our soft underbelly, which is...
Andrew, a television commentator and keen critic of the Chinese Communist Party, was taken to his local police station.
Does anyone else have access to your phone?
no.
He was accused of sending a violent email threatening to rape and kill a Chinese Australian journalist. Even on hearing the extraordinary charges against him, Andrew had no idea what was going on.
Threatening to kill, threatening to cause serious injury, committing a sexual act and or stalking. Yeah, that was the charge.
In that moment,
Yeah.
what was that like?
It's surreal, incredibly confronting. It was horrible. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
It was during this police interview that Andrew heard for the first time the vile words he was accused of writing and sending in the email.
So go back to China, bitch. And if you don't, I'm going to come find you, pound your yellow up your throat. At least then you'll bleed red in colour of the CCZ, bitch.
I would never, ever, in a month of Sundays, use that kind of language to a woman or anybody else.
Yeah, you've heard it now. Phew. Yeah, I mean, it upsets me hearing it again. It makes me so angry.
What makes you angry about that?
That this is done from the shadows, anonymously.
But he's in no doubt who's responsible.
I believe that this has been done under the auspices of the MSS, China's Ministry of State Security. Yeah, I do. I believe they're targeting Westerners that have been critical of the CCP in the public square.
To me, this case is crystal clear. Somebody's created a fake email address, sent an abusive email.
After lengthy questioning, police accepted Andrew was not the author of the email. The message certainly did not come from his email address, and he was not charged. But Andrew's terrible experience is not unique. Monash University academic Kevin Carrico is the victim of very similar tactics. Did you expect to be watched, targeted, followed in Australia? Did you expect it to happen here?
No. What I was not prepared for, right, was the ongoing harassment, sending, horrendous messages to random people.
Like Andrew, a sexually offensive email was recently sent in his name to a Chinese journalist in the UK. Ongoing punishment, Kevin assumes, for daring to write 2 books critical of the Chinese Communist Party.
It says, how's the BJ of white folk going? BJ here, of course, refers to oral sex.
Kevin took a more direct hit when another fake email was sent to nearly 70 people in his department saying he quit. If the intent was to cause confusion and inconvenience, it worked.
Whoever was doing this had set up an email account in my name and sent a a false resignation letter to my entire school. This is quite a bit of effort for a supposed superpower to go to harass a lowly lecturer in Melbourne.
That harassment is increasingly aimed at Australians. It seems it doesn't matter who you are. If you dare to criticise, prepare for payback from China. And no matter how blunt or brutal, they'll do anything to disrupt your life. At the ripe old age of 24, human rights activist Drew Pavlou is a veteran at attracting the attention of Chinese authorities, even on home soil.
I was annoying them a lot with my protest. I argue that's my right as an Australian citizen, and I knew that would make me a target, but I didn't realise that they were going to try a bomb threat. And I didn't realise that they were going to have me arrested as a terror suspect.
Last year, Drew was arrested protesting outside the Chinese embassy in London after it's alleged the regime made a false bomb threat in his name. Until it was established Drew had not made that threat, he faced 12 years in jail.
The police said, we received an email in your name, and I just stood there stunned like a stunned mullet.
We do not get worried about lots of things. However, in China, for example, if you talk about Taiwan independence, it's a crime.
China's former foreign affairs diplomat Victor Gao is frighteningly clear. Anyone who criticises Beijing over its treatment of minorities or argues for independence, be warned. So if you are a dissident or an activist or a protester in Australia making those claims about Tibet, Taiwan, the Uyghurs, are you safe or are you unsafe?
That's a violation of the One China policy.
And so what happens to them?
They will be very much looked at. Don't violate the Chinese sovereignty and territorial integrity. Otherwise, there will be no free haven anywhere in the world. Because if you do that, then sooner or later, justice may be served.
It's a strange kind of justice, but in a 6-month period, Drew received more than 40 emails threatening to kill him, which he's tracked back to a mercenary working for the Chinese Communist Party. To get an email that talks about kidnapping you, Drew, and cutting you up into little bits for a $50,000 reward, what's that like?
To be honest, it did really knock me out for, a good chunk of the year. Like, it's tough to admit that in a way they kind of won that round.
If that isn't bad enough, Drew's mum, Vanessa, is now in the crosshairs. Her only crime is to be Drew's mum. She's never even criticised the Chinese Communist Party, but like her son, now has a $50,000 bounty on her head. And appallingly, her reputation is also under attack. This ludicrous email was sent late last year to major shopping centres in Brisbane in the hope one would reach the boss of the shop Vanessa works at. She's running an illegal prostitution service and is a cocaine addict.
Yeah.
And whosoever shall terminate her first will receive remuneration. The method doesn't matter.
Scary. I always am looking over my shoulder. If I'm walking to my car, if I'm, I'm always aware. I'm a lot more aware, but I just try and live a normal life because otherwise they win, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is your home, Vanessa. This is your country, and you're being threatened like this.
Well,
Where else are we supposed to go? That's the thing. This is our country. This is where we were born.
So along with fear, how much anger is there?
Well, to me, I get angry. They think that they should be able to silence us through these kind of mafia-style tactics, these gangster tactics.
China has so many things to care about. We have 1.4 billion people to feed and clothe. Do you really think we are Superman and we still have enough energy and resources to engage in what you talk about?
It would seem so.
This is really not pragmatic.
Perhaps
I
not,
think
but
you
it would
need to
seem
allow the
so.
Chinese to focus on what we need to do at home rather than care about things like what you describe in Australia.
But the intimidating attacks on our very freedoms are on the increase, both here and overseas. Anyone who offends China will be killed no matter how far the target is.
So no matter how far you are in Australia, America, and Europe, if you offend China, then you'll be killed.
On strict condition of not revealing his whereabouts so as not to expose him to danger, Australian political artist Bardi is showing me his work in progress as he prepares for a major show in Poland.
I just have to be careful with myself, even now I'm, thousands miles away from China in Australia. But still, safety is not really an option, and I just have to be very, very cautious.
Even while you're making art that the world will see.
Exactly, yeah.
Bardi, who lived in China for 20 years before exiling to Australia, is considered an enemy of the state for his art, which often daringly paints the Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping as a tyrant.
So from this image, as we can see that Xi Jinping is actually eating a baby's torso. Of course, this image is a metaphor itself, but I think it's accurate enough to reflecting what is really going on inside of China.
Do you like being this close to this bloke?
It's very dramatic. Maybe I'm one of the artists in the world that depicting his face the most.
You clearly poke the bear. Your art is very graphic and not at all complimentary.
No. In this case, I would say poke the panda. Yes. I think, to be honest, the worst part of China is we have this very authoritarian regime. And now this kind of brutality is spreading all over the world.
So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they will reach you.
Exactly.
Bardi says Chinese authorities have put so much pressure on galleries here, he can't get his work shown in Australia. And as his international reputation has grown, inside China, the artist's family has been targeted and interrogated by authorities. It means to continue his fight against repression, the human rights defender has had to cut ties with loved ones to keep them safe.
The Chinese authority want me to giving up making art, or the consequence is, quote unquote, as they say, there'll be no mercy to me.
No mercy to you.
Exactly.
But you did not give up your art.
Yeah, because I do not believe that you can exchange freedom for your safety.
Bardi is a brave man, but China's campaign of intimidation is relentless and outrageous. His Australian citizenship offering scant protection.
In Melbourne, I've been experiencing being followed by a very suspicious person. I was on a bus. Suddenly, I find myself surrounded by 4 Asian, middle-aged male, all dressed very similar. And they're all actually equipped a Bluetooth ear gear.
Do you have any ideas actually sending you these? As much as it all sounds like a Hollywood fiction, Bardi says to keep one step ahead to ensure his safety and survival, he must constantly move between cities and countries. This sort of stuff, I really should beat you to death. But staying in the shadows doesn't stop the almost daily death threats, which Bardi is certain come from China. Anyone who offends China will be killed no matter how far the target is.
Yeah, so no matter how far you are in Australia, America, and Europe, if you offend China, then you'll be killed.
You will be killed.
With its very long arm from China, yes.
This week, that long arm reached into Poland, with officials from the Chinese embassy in Warsaw demanding Bardi's latest art exhibition be closed down. The gallery operators refused to be intimidated. How is it that China, with all its power, can be so wounded by someone like you?
It's this insecure feeling among all dictators, they have turned themselves into this control freak. They cannot trust anyone.
So even if it's one voice, even if it's one individual, they will crack down on them like they're at war with them, at war with you.
Exactly.
And that war has been stepped up to an audacious and terrifying new height, with the discovery of a secret Chinese police force operating throughout the world.
It is almost unthinkable, and it's definitely designed to be monitoring, harassing, and creating some kind of intimidation against anyone who want to criticize the Chinese government.
21-year-old Wang Jingyu, who lives in the Netherlands, has first-hand experience of this secret force intent on flexing its muscle anywhere, anytime. He fled China 4 years ago after posting his support for Hong Kong democracy. Operating out of Rotterdam, the overseas police station tracked down the young dissident to repeatedly harass him.
Every day, the Chinese overseas police stations make over 100 times phone call to me.
Jingyu says he was bombarded by calls, one after the other and all through the night, to pressure him to return to China.
They ask me, go to Rotterdam, Chinese overseas police station, surrender, talk to them, and go back to China because I refused.
What would happen to you if you returned to China?
If I returned to China, I think probably I will go in prison. Yeah, it's very terrible.
How did you react when you heard that there was a police station in Rotterdam that was Chinese?
So I feel very terrible. I'm so scared. Like they can do anything. We are not safe. Yeah.
Back in China in 2021, Jingyu's parents were taken into custody to pay for the crimes of their son and as a brutal bargaining chip to ensure Jingyu's return. How long were your parents detained for?
It's over 1 year. Yeah, over 1 year.
And are they safe now?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know anything about my parents. To be honestly, I don't know where is my parents.
Are you ever tempted to be silent to make your life easier?
And no, I will not. Because, if I accept this, I just, stop talking. And the Chinese authority will think this plan is work. And they will use this plan to attack another Chinese dissidents. So I will not do this, yeah.
Rotterdam is just one of a network of secret police stations set up on foreign soil. So far, more than 100 have been identified in 53 countries, including here. You believe there are 2 police stations in Australia?
The Chinese authorities list at least 2 police stations in Australia.
In an extraordinary escalation that ignores international law or borders, China now stands accused of running a secret police force in 53 countries around the world. It's believed there are more than 100 of these individual stations, and they operate in the shadows, out of restaurants, private homes, and small businesses, tracking down, stalking, and intimidating critics who've escaped China. And the allegation is 2 have been found in Australia.
We have the risk that the Chinese police have been trying to covertly operate in Australia without the consent of the Australian government, and that, of course, is a serious concern.
For Senator James Patterson, the head of our Foreign Interference Committee, the emergence of these police stations is a shocking clandestine incursion.
We have to say that our borders are not up for negotiation, that you can't come and operate behind our borders. That's the whole purpose of this, that it's covert and that it's secret.
The Chinese are certainly happy to acknowledge the existence of what they call Chinese overseas police service stations. On state media in 2018, they proudly announced the opening of the first station in the Sydney CBD, along with 20 others around the world.
Currently, the Wenzhou Public Security Bureau has established 20 liaison points in 11 cities, including Vancouver, Sydney, Paris, and New York.
These stations were all set up by the Public Security Bureau, which is the police department in the city of Wenzhou. But it's this list which is truly compelling because it identifies a second Chinese overseas police station in Australia. It comes from another public security bureau, this one from the city of Nantong, and it's extraordinary for its detail. On it are the addresses and phone numbers of a further 29 overseas police stations set up on foreign soil. Now, for legal reasons, I can't give you their exact locations, but they're in France, Peru, Canada, South Africa, even New Zealand. But most alarming, item number 17 clearly shows a residential address deep in suburban Sydney.
This is what the Chinese authorities, public security authorities in China say they have done. So it is them that state that they have set up such stations in Australia, in Sydney to be specific.
Laura Harth is the campaign director of human rights organisation Safeguard Defenders. Using open source material collected from the Chinese web, Laura's team last year uncovered more than 100 police stations. China proudly claims they're designed to provide services to Chinese nationals living abroad, as well as catch criminals who fled the mainland. But the fact they were set up without the permission of many host countries makes them illegal. And in Laura's view, a dangerous front for so much more.
The public security bureaus that have been setting up these stations, these are really the police authorities within the People's Republic of China.
The link between the overseas police stations and the public security bureaus in effect means police from mainland China are running an international shadow police force wherever they like. But according to the Australian Federal Police, those Chinese police stations are not active here.
We don't have that situation in Australia.
It would be obviously utterly unacceptable if there was an undeclared, unauthorised Chinese police presence in Australia, wouldn't it be?
Completely unacceptable.
Great. And if your organisation became aware of it, you would act on it?
Correct.
Why is there suspicion then that there are two in Australia if we're being told there are not?
It should be crystal clear one way or the other. And it would be unusual, if you think about it, that Australia was one of the only countries in the world that didn't have any of these sites operational.
Documents out of China point to this address being one of the secret police stations in Sydney. And while the AFP won't comment, our months of investigation can reveal this nondescript home is owned by the executive president of an organisation in China that helped set up the underground police force around the world. Is it the case that the Australian authorities did not know that they set it up here?
Our understanding is that the vast majority of targeted countries of these clandestine overseas police service centres indeed did not know that those were set up.
But Victor Gao, a former foreign affairs diplomat for China, doesn't know what all the fuss is about. He maintains the police stations are there mainly to provide to the overseas community the same admin services carried out in China. For instance, renewing driver's licenses.
I would say that the demand for such services are very legitimate and very normal. For example, what about a divorce or asset disposal, for example, and kids' education, going to school. In China, you do need to have access to the Ministry of Public Security or the provincial municipal bureaus to get certificates, for example, in order to make sure that your daily lives are not disrupted.
It's just unusual, isn't it, and quite unique that China, of all the nations in the world, requires this system. No one else does. You don't have Australian police stations in China. You don't have American police stations operating in China to supply the citizens with driver's licenses. It's completely unnecessary. It's just a furphy.
I do hope major countries like Australia and the United States should also realize that lots of services need to be provided to the Chinese communities.
News of the Chinese overseas police stations made world headlines in April this year when the FBI shut down one operating in Manhattan. Investigators did not accept the services on offer were legitimate, accusing two men of harassing and intimidating a US resident. The pair has been charged with conspiring to act as agents for the People's Republic of China.
The Chinese National Police appear to have been using the station to track a U.S. resident on U.S. soil.
Victor Gao unashamedly argues, though, that as well as providing administrative support, it's the Communist Party's right to track down and return to China criminals from anywhere in the world. The point, Victor, is you've not been invited into these countries. You're operating without them knowing. A, it's illegal, but B, it's completely unacceptable.
If countries cooperate, it's an easy job. If they don't cooperate, then I think you need to understand why sometimes they go to the extreme to find out who these criminals are, where they are, what they have done.
So what you're saying, Victor, is if the host nation doesn't cooperate, you're coming anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, between China and Australia, China and the United States, for example, such government-to-government cooperation is not in the best shape. And sometimes you run into difficulties. But the demand for such services still exists. And how do you provide such demand? And also to hunt down criminals.
It certainly would be totally unlawful for a foreign police service to operate any sort of liaison office in Australia without the consent of the Australian government, and I'm not aware of the Australian government ever giving consent for these to be operated.
There's this sort of sense of impunity or arrogance that they can go around the world doing what they like.
Andrew Phelan, who dared to criticise China and invoked its fury, is equally outraged about the discovery of this shadow police force. He's part of a growing club of Australians being strong-armed by death threats and smear campaigns by the Chinese authorities to silence criticism. But Andrew refuses to be cowed by these dirty tactics, and he says it's imperative to protect those in China's sights.
The idea is to rock you. It's to shake your foundations. It's to make you afraid, to intimidate, to coerce. They're very good at this sort of thing. Will it work in my case? No.
As we said, the Australian Federal Police is adamant there are no Chinese police stations here, but they've agreed to look at the information we've uncovered. The Chinese embassy in Canberra also denied the existence of the police stations, dismissing our story as misinformation. Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.
Hi, welcome to show. It's me, Cody, your vivacious and healthy newsboy. Here's some news. I can taste blood right now.
Cody, what is this? What did you do?
I was skiing, which is something I love to do, and I was run over by, I can't legally say who I was run over by, but let's just say that it's a famous blonde actress with a health brand who was in Iron Man.
Oh no, Leslie Bibb ran you over? I always thought she was shifty. Okay, get up, go on. I'll host the episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this a trick? Did you poison my bandages?
No, no tricks, okay? I care about you. Go on, off you go. Come on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got it. It's okay.
Okay, yes. Okay, you go on. You get out of here. You scam. Yeah, walk away, idiot. Now Katie's in control. You dwindle while I grow. Good morning, cuties. It's time to talk about the newsies. Normally, I'm only brought on to talk about quote-unquote woman issues, like when we cover abortion. So it's nice to have my very own episode without Beardo involved.
You know, I heard all of that. You can see me right here next to you.
Hey, here's some news.
Getting the perfect beach bod for summer.
Mother lover, are you serious, bro? The one full episode I hijack? Okay. Okay then, making lemonade. Making lemonade. Hi everyone. Gosh, I am so happy to see you. And can I say, you are looking great. Have your elbows lost mass? It's looking like your flesh is molecularly arranged in a way pleasing to society's standard of the month. And wowza, have you done something with your adipose tissue? But you know, you really should try this new diet and exercise regimen. It's proven to make your bones more supple and fuckable. Don't you want fuckable bones? You see, while you may have thought that as there are 7.8 billion our corporeal bodies in a variety of shapes and sizes, well, according to social media algorithms, you're wrong. There is actually only one correct corporeal body. You want fuckable bones? You see, while you may have thought that as there are 7.8 billion humans on Earth, it might be okay for our corporeal bodies to be a variety of shapes and sizes, well, according to social media algorithms, you're wrong. There is actually only one correct human shape, and we here at Some More News have gathered data across all social media platforms, run a statistical regression analysis, and found the optimal human shape according to Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Roblox. Okay, you ready? Running the analysis. And here it is. Stunning. I love this look for her. Is this really the episode?
Our obsession with weight hurts everyone.
Hey, okay, yes, that's more like it. See, what we did there was a bit. Cody's not the only one who gets to do bits. Anywho, if you hadn't noticed, every day we are being flooded with content online and on television and billboards, all advertising health, fitness, and desirable body shapes. But also self-confidence and body positivity, but also perfect skin, no cellulite. And hey, also, you should have high self-esteem and love yourself. And aging is sort of cool, but not cellulite. There are so many confusing, contradictory messages about health and wellness and beauty and basically what you're supposed to do with the pounds of meat that is your human body. So that's the episode for today. Fitness culture, fat shaming, and the turd realm that is the internet. And besides it all being extremely confusing and mentally damaging, the thing people often don't mention about fitness culture and fat shaming is that it's also extremely harmful for your physical health. It's bad on every level, all of it. And it's not limited to people who present as female. So this is not some quote-unquote woman's issue. In fact, this hurts everyone. And while none of it's new, the internet and social media specifically have made the problem extremely worse.
Facebook knows that the engagement-based ranking, the way that they pick the content in Instagram for young users, for all users, amplifies preferences. And they have done something called a proactive incident response, where they take things that they've heard, for example, like, can you be led by the algorithms to anorexia content? And they have literally recreated that experiment themselves and confirmed, yes, this happens to people.
That is Frances Haugen, or as Mark Zuckerberg's army of laser robots know her, Target Acquired, who went on to explain that Facebook has actually done its own internal research and specifically found that their algorithm was increasing eating disorders, especially in teenage girls. They knew, but they did not care, because money is very green and yachts don't just buy and staff themselves with exotic lemurs trained to be butlers. Haugen attests that Facebook not only knows their algorithm leads to eating disorders, but Facebook has specifically been studying this phenomenon themselves. According to internal presentation slides obtained by the Wall Street Journal, Facebook's own research literally states 32% of teen girls said that when they felt bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse. And we make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls. What the documents in Haugen's testimony make clear is that when Facebook came across a conflict between stacks of cash and human people, it, according to Haugen, consistently resolved these conflicts in favor of their own profits. And it's not just Facebook's own studies finding this connection. Researchers at multiple universities and in multiple studies have found that increased time spent on Facebook is correlated with an increased incidence of negative body image and disordered eating. But hey, gotta keep those eyeballs on the screen and those fingers scrolling. Otherwise, you'd miss out on a chance to buy a monthly subscription to receive small briquettes of quinoa-flavored dried tree bark that'll cleanse your toxins, make you thin, find you love, and heal the psychological damage dealt to you by the health site you're on for only $150 a week. But as I already said, social media is basically a giant magnifying glass for already existing issues in our society. For years and years, advertisers have capitalized on making people feel bad about themselves and have used shame as a powerful marketing tool. Cue the montage.
The stout person, woman, or man finds it difficult to dress attractively.
Even though you've tried other methods and failed, you can still lose ugly fat fast.
Is this the day you finally do something about your weight?
I've tried fad diets, powders, pills. Still my weight's been up and down like a yo-yo until the AIDS plan taught me how to take off weight and help keep it off.
Who'd ever think I could lose weight while watching TV?
I was fat, and that's when I decided to go to Jenny Craig.
Body fat increases from having kids, stress at work, lack of exercise, and poor diet. Now liposuction is a surgical procedure that removes this body fat.
Want to fit into the latest clothes by summer? You can do it.
With just one breath, Lumen tells you what you're currently burning for energy, carbs or body fat.
I was at 298 when I started noon. Rock bottom. Real rock bottom.
One of those ads was for a brand called AIDS, which, let me tell you, did not catch on. And of course, we are now hearing about Ozempic, the drug that will apparently make all food gross and give you the ability to read minds. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, over the past 150 years or so, we've been pretty obsessed with weight. And while some of these weight loss ads seem antiquated and body positivity and neutrality are gaining more acceptance, this is basically the same playbook as what we have on social media. Except now, we also get to feel bad about staying indoors during a massive global pandemic, I guess. Because while I'm talking about our still alive bodies that are not in the exact optimized shape according to the algorithm. Can I get one of those algorithmically approved